Welcome back. Now let's take another look at our lead story. That's the state of the education sector. And joining me live is a professor of education, Professor Aloy Ejogu. Thanks for joining us. Apologies for earlier on. So let's start off again from the NEC's committee's recommendation, talking about the need for a state of emergency. And I was asking you earlier what you thought about it.
Thank you very much, Ijoma, for having me. We have always said it time and time again. You cannot lean on nothing. Having a percentage of budget allocation to education means devoting money that leans on nothing. It looks like we would always like to put our cart before the horse. Education in Nigeria needs to be overhauled. And I have always advocated for an emergency, a state of emergency in the educational sector. The Ministry of Education, Federal Ministry of Education, has a sector analysis unit, and they have made loads and loads of publications analyzing the sector, the problems, the issues. Let us start from the scratch. Let us rebuild the education system. We don't have a primary education system that is functional, except in 1 or 2 states. We don't have secondary education system that is functional, except in 2 or 3 states. And you are trying to allocate 15% of budget for what? At the state level? Is it for primary education? Is it for university education? Is it for tertiary education? I am advocating, first and foremost, a state of emergency in the Nigerian educational system. When we have a system in place, now we talk about how much to allocate for the maintenance, for the running cost of the educational system. The 15% or 20% or 30% you're talking about is for maintaining, running, ensuring that quality is maintained. But we don't have anything in place. Let there be a state of emergency in the Nigerian educational system. We had a sector analysis report of 2007. Let those who are making recommendations go and pick them and some other publications and find out that we have a rotten, disorganized, inefficient, confused educational system. It isn't something that 15% or 20% will solve. Let us first and foremost have an educational system. When we have it, we now ask ourselves, how much do we need to get the system running?
The state of emergency you're calling for, I believe, is something that the committee is looking at and has spoken about today. But what about the argument that it's not so much as funding education, but investing in education, seeing that investment is the long-term thing? If they were going to invest, which sector of education would you think needs the most help? Which is more critical, do you think?
We call it a system. It means interrelatedness of all the sub-sectors of the education. Primary, secondary, tertiary. But we have to start from foundation. If we don't get a primary education straight, we have no educational system. Our primary education is useless. It's non-existent. It's just in name. It exists in name. Even at the university level, some universities in Nigeria are universities in name only. Some universities can have only 20, 25 applicants seeking admission into them, but they are universities. Ijoma, please, we need to sit down and get our educational system, tear it into pieces and build a functional, equitable, a realistic, useful educational system. That is my take on it.
All right, Professor of Education there, Professor Aloy Ejogu. Thanks a lot for joining us and sharing your thoughts on this issue on the News at 10 tonight. As part of its corporate social responsibility projects, the MTN Foundation has continued to provide support for artistic events aimed at promoting the arts. The foundation seeks to engage more talented youths and take as many as possible off the streets.
Since 2006, MTN Foundation, the CSR arm of MTN Nigeria, has continued to promote Nigeria's values through art and culture. In a bid to help empower more young people in the space, the foundation announces its plans to support a number of productions that will run through the last quarter of this year.
These productions were carefully, selected to be supported because they speak to, different spheres of the arts and culture space. From theater productions, from grassroots productions, even to the visual arts. And we're very, very proud of the work that they're doing and proud to support them.
The organizers talk about a new space they'll be occupying.
We've been talking all along about performing arts and talent and on stage and musicals, etc. Why is MTN Foundation involved here again? Okay? Because arts, visual arts is indeed performing arts. When you know about the true nature of visual arts, the collection of all these things are what makes Nigeria's arts and culture space very rich and diverse.
The MTN Foundation, in partnership with the Musical Society of Nigeria, MUSON, is also providing sponsorship for students with a flair for music. And Ayo Ajayi, one of the first to benefit from such, shares his experience.
I studied with MUSON MTN scholarship for 2 years. And after then, I proceeded, I did some things, and I came to BAP Production, where I was the music director for Saro and Waka, the musicals, both Lagos and London editions, and MTN was there as well.
The MTN Foundation is the vehicle through which MTN Nigeria runs its corporate social responsibility initiatives.
Shareholders of PZ Customs Nigeria PLC have approved the dividends payout of 15 kobo per share, amounting to 595 million naira. The unanimous approval was given at the company's 70th annual general meeting held in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. In his address to the shareholders, the chairman of the company, Chief Kola Jamodu, explained that even though the company's revenue grew by 3%, there was a slight drop in operational and profit after tax.
It's the 70th annual general meeting of PZ Customs Nigeria PLC. In attendance are directors and shareholders of the company.
To improve efficiencies.
First, the chairman of the company, Mr. Kola Jamodu, addresses the shareholders on the performance of the company. According to him, even though the company had made some appreciable progress, its operational and profit after tax dropped by 47.7%. He, however, says measures are being put in place to ensure a better future for the company.
We are streamlining and optimizing the product portfolio by bringing more focus on key brands and categories that can restore margin.
His stance is corroborated by the CEO of the company.
I think that the company has done well. It has not been to our satisfaction. However, under the circumstances, the state that the consumer is, I think that we have done quite well. Our market shares have remained the same or have improved, which means that we are still a choice for the consumers.
Done with the speeches, the shareholders, amongst other decisions, approved the disbursement of dividend payout of 15 kobo per share, amounting to 595 million naira.
Anybody against? No. Thank you very much.
Some of the shareholders bear their minds on the performance of the company.
Well, generally, the economy is rather harsh. It's been a difficult year, but we are hopeful that we're getting out of the woods and that the returns will be much better in the coming year.
They have assured us that next year it will be much better. Because of the recession and because of the insurgency in the north, their products are not reaching many of the places that the projects were reaching before.
The share dividends are to be disbursed from the 19th of October 2018. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Let's take a look at some more business news. Here's Anne Waudu.
You First. First Bank.
Thank you, Ijoma. Let's begin business news tonight with the federal government's plan to reduce its borrowings from 1.6 to 1.5 trillion naira next year. The Minister of Budget and National Planning, Mr. Odo Oduma, who was speaking at a meeting in Abuja, has attributed the decision to the nation's debt level. According to him, the federal government plans to improve payment of pensions and gratuities from 241 billion naira in 2018 to 527 billion naira in 2019.
Government officials, financial experts, and members of the civil society organizations at a consultative forum on the implementation of the 2019-2021 medium-term expenditure framework. First, the Director General of the Budget Office briefs on how the economy has fared, post-recession, and current plans by the federal government to ensure all-inclusive growth through the implementation of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan.
Our emergence from recession was not accidental, but rather the outcome of strategic policies and actions implemented by the federal government. Most of these policies and actions are necessarily work in progress, as significant fiscal challenges remain over the medium term.
The federal government, before now, had projected an aggressive independent revenue generation of 847 billion naira. But to date, just 624 billion naira has been realized. There, however, appears to be innovative ways to address this. The nation's debt stock is to also be reviewed.
We are coming down the deficit, we're reducing it. And we are also, so we're reducing the fiscal deficit from 1.9 trillion in 2018 to 1.6 trillion in 2019. That is our proposal. And the new borrowings, we're reducing the new borrowings to from 1.6 down to 1.5. So basically what we're doing, reduce the size of the budget, to ensure that we cut our coat according to our pocket, as it were.
It's 2 months before the end of 2018. What Nigerians expect in the next few days is how these ambitious targets will improve their lives.
Bargain hunting for the shares of Dangote Cement improved market sentiment at the close of trade today, despite negative performance from other key sectors. Let's hear more from Tosin Adeshina.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The industrial goods sector helped push the domestic stock market back to positive terrain by 70 basis points at the close of Thursday's trading session, despite sell pressure from 4 other major counters. The 1.74% rebound from that sector was mostly driven by gains from Dangote Cement and Nigerian breweries, which culminated to 83 billion naira recovery for the equities capitalization. However, in contrast to Wednesday's session, the total volume of shares traded for the day lowered by 67.14 million units to around 174 million, with much of the interest attributed to GT Bank, Zenith Bank, and FBN Holdings. The shares of Law Union, Prestige, and Consolidated Hallmark Insurance are Thursday's 3 best price performers out of 13 gainers, while Vitafoam, CNI Leasing, and UAC Property are top worst performers out of 22 losers. That's the Stock Market Report. I'm Tosin Adeshina.
Thank you, Tosin. Well, on the global scene now, it's a sea of red for most of the world's leading stock markets. Investors are keeping an eye on Brexit talks, as well as continued volatility on Wall Street. Let's see the numbers for today. That's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawudu. It's back to you, Joma.
You First. First Bank.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Adijaz Gbadamosi wins silver medal in women's flyweight boxing category to take Team Nigeria medal haul to 4 at the 2018 Youth Olympics. That's on sports. Please stay with us.